Hello, my name is Yisrael Motzen. I'm a rabbi in Baltimore, Maryland, a Ner Tamid, and a member of the RCA Executive Board. So the million-dollar question in this week's Parsha is, what was Rivka thinking? She pulls off a masterful charade, tricking her husband and getting Yaakov the blessings that he does deserve. But in the process, she also sets off a trajectory of hate, which according to Chazal lasts until this day. And the question is, why didn't she just turn to her husband and say, Yitzchak, I just want to let you know you are wrong. Yaakov is a tzaddik, and Esav is a rasha. Instead, she tricks him, causes Esav to hate Yaakov. Why? Why doesn't she just, in a straightforward fashion, tell her husband the truth? So Rav Hirsch suggests that she did, many times. Rav Hirsch suggests that Yitzchak and Rivka would argue about this all the time. Just that Yitzchak just didn't see it Rivka's way. And so what Rivka had to do was trick him, demonstrate to him that he could be tricked, demonstrate that his judgment was not as sound as he thought, and therefore she sets up this whole charade to demonstrate to Yitzchak that his judgment is not as great as he thought. The Netziv, really taking the opposite approach, and in a rather controversial and well-known approach, suggests that Rivka never told this to Yitzchak. He suggests that from the day that they met, Rivka was overwhelmed and overawed by Yitzchak, his holiness, his stature, and therefore was afraid to argue, to ever counter any of his opinions, and therefore the only feasible way in her mind to get a point across was really doing so behind his back. And I think each of these approaches speak to a different model of family dynamics. There are the families who confront one another, usually in a nice, gentle way. Sometimes it could perhaps develop into screaming matches and things of that nature. And there are families where people never confront one another. Sometimes they'll forgive, and sometimes they'll not forgive, and they'll let each other know in a rather passive-aggressive fashion. Whichever approach, I think there's one common denominator to both of these approaches, and that is that Yitzchak was not reachable. He wasn't able to hear the feedback that he sorely needed. And so the takeaway to me is exactly that. The question that both these approaches pose to us is, do we have someone in our lives who could tell us we're wrong? And if we do we listen to them? It's a question that every human being needs to answer, because we all need such people in our lives, whether it's a spouse, a friend, a family member. And it's something that's especially pertinent to people in positions of power and authority. There is a fascinating and terrifying article in The Atlantic in the July-August 2017 edition. It's an article by Jerry Usin, and he cites a number of neurobiological studies which demonstrate that people in power, their brain actually changes over time. He describes it as the power paradox, how to become a leader, we often need traits of empathy, the ability to understand one another and really pick up on cues. And unfortunately, as time goes on, we lose that ability. A person in power, a person who is a leader, after hearing so many yeses, after so many people agreeing with them so often, they stop having the capacity to truly empathize and to truly understand people properly. That's a scary thought, a very scary thought. And the one solution suggested by the writer and other people who have studied this topic is that we need a person in our life who could bring us back to reality, who could let us know that we're wrong and remind us from time to time that we're just not that great. There's an amazing story by the CEO and chairman of Pepsi, Indra Nooyi, and she describes how in 2001, when she was elected to join the board of Pepsi, she came home, she wanted to tell her parents about this wonderful news. She told them she has something amazing to tell them, and as soon as she got to the door, her mother stopped her and said, before you come in, do you mind picking up some milk for the family? We need some milk. Can you go to the corner store and pick some up? And she was fuming. Here she was just elected to this elite board to help lead Pepsi. And her mother was asking her to do this demeaning job of picking up some milk. And when she came home, her mother turned to her and said, leave your crown in the garage. Who do we have in our lives who could tell us that we're wrong, who could tell us that our ideas are a little crazy, and who could remind us to leave our crown in the garage? Good Shabbos.